up, gamers? It's the holidays, and we've been a little busier than we planned on Dice and Dragons, so we ended up doing more holiday and family-friendly gaming. So for those of you expecting the Terminator Genesis video, that's coming. Should be out next week. It'll be our full playthrough. But with that being said, let's talk about this lovely game in front of us. We are back in the Wizarding World. As you can see, Julie's ready. She's pumped. She's excited. I am really stoked. I really have enjoyed the Harry Potter franchise and the Harry Potter series of games. So we are playing Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle, a cooperative deck building game designed by USAOPOLY, more specifically the Forest Present Collective, Kemi Mandel, and Andrew Wolf. And with that mouthful, taken care of, Julie will tell you more about the game itself.
So as Jason said, it's a cooperative game that's a 2 to 4 player game for ages 11 and above. I think we've talked about it. We believe that you could probably play a little bit younger. I'd say 9 or 10. As long as they've played before and they understand a little bit about deck building games.
I'd say that they could be a little frustrated in a 4-player game. The game is definitely more challenging at 4 than at 2.
Yeah, we'll get into that in the review.
Just keep that in mind when it comes to younger gamers.
And it doesn't officially say play time on the box. I'd say for a 2-player, it was easily 45 minutes. And for a 4-player, count on a good 60 minutes. Yeah,
the first 2 games at 2-player were probably about 30. But yeah, 30 to 45 minutes at 2. 60, maybe even a little longer than that.
As you progress along the game, it takes a little bit longer.
No. So what are you doing in this game? Well, it is a deck building game. So you are trying to defeat the famous villains that are attacking Harry Potter and his friends at Hogwarts. What villains will they be facing, Julie?
They'll be seeing both Malfoys, Voldemort.
And Barty Crouch.
The Basilics.
Oh yeah, that is a nemesis of hers. And while you are defeating these villains, or trying to defeat these villains, they are trying to take over locations, famous locations from the Wizarding World and Harry Potter. And if the villains take over those locations, they succeed, you lose, and get ready to restart that year because you just did not graduate. And with that being said, it's time to take it to the table. So we are going to grab our drinks, grab our best friend.
And as you said, we're going to take it to the table.
We're definitely going to take it to the table. And I'm very happy there's an expansion to this. We've had a good time with this. I think we spent more time on this game than quite a few others in recent memory.
So no further ado, let's take it to the table.
Yeah. This was a Christmas marathon thanks to my loving wife. She's definitely a gamer, guys. Like, she's graduated.
Yeah, and thank my parents for playing for 6 hours.
Yeah, it was your idea, not mine. Now we're going to take a look at the components for Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. Now, I want to start with the rule book because you'll notice right here, it says Game 1. Now, the interesting thing about the rule book is it's more of a sort of introductory setup guide to the game, more so than anything else. Going to go over gameplay, things like that. And in the back here, you actually have places to keep the rules from the other games. And that's really cool. As you can see, Julie and I haven't got to game 6 and 7 yet. Now, we should have gotten to those games by the time we actually do the review. I'm just diving into the components right now. So let's do that. Let's move on to the components. Now, here we've got the game boxes, that you can see they're labeled from Game 1, 2, 3, 4, Game 5, Game 6, and Game 7. Now, the interesting thing about those game boxes is that as you're opening them up, they do change the game. Now, I'm going to open up one of them. There may be a little bit of spoilers, but I just want you guys to see what's inside. It almost plays like a legacy game, but you can always go through the components and go back to play some of the easier years at Hogwarts. Now, let's just take a quick look at Game 7. It's the one that I can reach. So let's see what we have in the box. Now, you'll notice we get some rules. We get some new items like the Sword of Gryffindor. We even get some new character cards. Now, I don't want to take out much more than that. This was really just a tease so you guys can see what's in there. I already have some spoilerish components that are out here. Now we've taken a look at the game boxes. Let's take a look at the tokens and some of the other things you're going to get with the game. Now here we've got our tokens and dice. Now these are the Hogwarts dice, one for each house. So we've got Slytherin, Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, and Ravenclaw. This is a petrification token that comes up later on. These represent your buying power. These are the dark marks that will go on the location cards that we'll talk about in a minute. We have the health markers right here, which go on your hero boards, which we'll discuss. And then these are damage tokens. So those are all the tokens that I've seen in the game so far. If there's anything in game 6 or 7, well, those will be a nice surprise for you guys. But let's keep moving on. Let's take a look at our heroes and the hero boards. Now we've got 4 heroes in the game. So you're able to play as either Harry Potter, Hermione, Ron, or Neville. You notice that these are the game 1 versions of them. And then in game 1, you also get this nice turn order card. And I like the fact that it's the Hogwarts Express. And what I've done here is I've just stacked their starting cards because each character comes with a set of 10 starting cards. Let's quickly take a look at them. You'll see gain 1 purchasing power with Alohomora. That's primarily what you're going to have, but you have something different like your ally, which here we got Hedwig. Harry, of course, has the invisibility cloak. And you guys can see it, his broom, the firebolt. So all of these cards are different for each character. Let's just take a quick look at Hermione. Now you see with Hermione, once again, Alohomora, but she's got Crookshanks as her ally, Time Turner as a different item, and you can see the special ability of it. And then once again, Alohomora. So that's just to give you guys a little bit of flavor and show that each of the characters is very different. Now, the character boards here are what you're going to be using. Here you're going to track your health. This will be if you get stunned, and there's rules for stun in the rule book. This is where you stack your draw cards, your discard pile, and then as you're generating the 2 resources, your purchasing power and your damage, you can stack them on your board and then spend them during the end of your turn. Well, not the end of your turn, but before you end your turn, because you're going to be playing cards, generating resources, and then spending them. Now here, before we move on, this is just a stack of Hogwarts cards. It'll start out a lot smaller than that. It's going to be basically what's in the game 1 box. But as we've gone through games 1 through 5, you can see it's grown quite large. Now, we've taken a look at the heroes, at the hero boards. Let's take a look at all the components related to the villains. Now, we were talking about the Dark Mark tokens. Those go on the location tokens. Now, what you're trying to do is protect these locations from the villains. When you get something such as this card, this Dark Arts card, he who must not be named, you will add a Dark Mark to the location. Once they've controlled this location, you will flip to another location. You can see that denoted here by it saying game 1, and this is 1 location of 2. We'll pick it up and get it closer to the camera. And you can see here that it'll tell you for each turn you will only draw 1 Dark Arts card. Well, these are the cards here. So I've drawn 1 for game 1. This is an event, but there are different things that will happen with the cards. And certain locations may even have you drawing multiple Dark Arts cards. Now that's a few at the bottom there also from game 1. So you can see Flipendo, the active hero will lose 1 health and discard a card. We also have Petrification. All heroes lose 1 health and cannot draw extra cards this turn. Now, for those of you that are familiar with deck builders, you will know that being able to draw extra cards is a big part of a deck building game. And then the last thing we need to look at are the villains. Now, we've got Draco Malfoy out here, one of the villains from game 1. You will see his villain ability, what happens, and it will depend on different things. They're not all the same. So for him, it's each time a Dark Mark is added to the location, here the active hero will lose 2 health. It's different for other villains, and this is the nice villain stack, the guys that we must now fight. You'll see that with Professor Quirrell, the active hero loses 1 health, and then each of them has a different reward. And there you, well, I almost skipped ahead, but we've got the last thing right here. The Marauders map, I'm going to pick it up and show it on the main camera. Won't be as close up, but here is the game board. I like the fact that it's thematic with the Marauders map. So as you can see, everything has a place on the board. Now I'm going to fold it back up, and we've done it. We have covered all of the components that you're going to get in Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. So what we're going to do now is teach you how to set up the game, then we'll quickly take you through how to play. So keep it right here as we jump on our brooms to bring you the rest of the video. And we're going to set up Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. Now, I just have this set on an angle because, as you can see, it takes up a lot of room. We're going to go through the setup, and then I will figure out something else for the how to play to make sure you guys can see everything. Now, the first thing that we need to do is just get some of the tokens that we need and get them near the board. So we're going to have our purchasing power tokens, our combat tokens, get them in a nice pile near the discard. We will change the way everything is. We're going to set up our hero. Obviously, it's going to be Harry as the first hero. And we'll just actually slide him a little bit over the top of the board to make sure he stays all nice on camera. Then for the first game, you start also with your nice turn order marker to keep track of everything. You then take a health token, set it at 10. And we've gone ahead and set up our hero except for their deck. Now we're going to need to take their starting deck of Hogwarts cards. So all of them that say Harry, take them, shuffle them up, and we're going to place them in the draw pile next to their game board. Now, you do want to have some space below the board to place your cards. It is important during the playthrough, but really not important right now to teach you guys how to set everything up. You're going to have the two location cards. So you see there's the Mirror of Erised and Diagon Alley, and you can see game 1, 1 of 2, and 2 of 2. Very simple. Just set them up like this, place them in the location spot. What you're going to do is then also take the Dark Arts cards, and you're going to shuffle them up, place them in the location for the Dark Arts cards, place them here. We then also have our 3 starting villains, Draco Malfoy, Crabbe Goyle, and Quirinus Quirrell. That's not easy to say. You're going to shuffle up these 3 cards. Now, in certain games, you may be fighting multiple villains, but for game 1, you only be fighting 1 villain at a time. To win the game, you must defeat each villain. So we'll start it off. It will be Quirrell as the villain. We then need to take the starting game 1 Hogwarts cards. As you can see, all of them say game 1. We will then shuffle them up and place them in the starting pile. All right, so it's shuffled, and there we go. So as you can see, the game is now set up. We've got a place to discard our villains as well as the Dark Arts cards. So there's everything that we need on the board. This is just a little awkward right now, but I want to keep it on one camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the setup. We're going to teach you guys how to play the game with a quick run through of probably about a turn or maybe 2, but most likely just 1. So keep it right here. We're jumping on our firebolts and racing to the next scene. Now we're going to take a look at how you play Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. We've got our dark mark tokens near the board. I just neglected to take them out during setup. It's not a big deal. What we need to do now, as we are starting game 1, is draw our 6th starting Hogwarts card. We get the Sorting Hat, a new spell, Incendio. Ooh, Albus Dumbledore, that'd be a great one to recruit. Quidditch gear. An Essence of Dittany, so some healing, and Descendo. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the camera where we've got our heroes set up, and we're going to draw their 5 starting cards. So Harry has a nice set right now. And what we'll do is we'll take a quick look at them, then I'll condense them so they don't take up too much room. So we have 2, drop the card, sorry, Alohomoras, which would gain us some purchasing power. We've got 1 ally, which is Hedwig, where we get to choose 1, gain 1 lightning bolt, or heal ourselves by 2. We have the Firebolt, which is gain 1 lightning bolt, and if you defeat a villain, you also gain 1 purchasing power. Then our Invisibility Cloak, which is gain 1, and if this is in your hand, you can't lose more than 1 heart from each dark art or villain events, meaning if something says we take 2 damage or 3 damage, we'd only take 1 damage. Now we need to draw Hermione's cards. I'm just going to take the top 5, probably a little easier this way, and then we'll show them to you. Now we've got her ally of Crookshanks, which is the same as Hedwig. She's got the Time Turner, which lets her gain 1, and she may put spells she acquires on the top of her deck instead of the discard pile. She has 2 Alohomoras, and then the Tales of Beetle the Bard, where she can choose 1, she can gain 2 purchasing power, all heroes can gain 1. It's pretty cool. So we'll split that up a little bit by their different types and keep it a little condensed so that we try to keep everything off camera. If something slides off a little bit or has some glare, I do apologize. Now, it is Harry's turn. And what we need to do now is go down through the turn order. So we reveal and resolve Dark Arts events cards, resolve villain abilities, play Hogwarts cards, which will be these next. And then we end your turn, and we will discard anything left over. We don't get to carry anything left over into our next turn. Now, however, if, for example, Hermione gives us a token during her turn, that would stay because we don't go through this end of turn phase on another player's turn. Now, we're back over here. We're taking a look at the board. Let's see what we get for the Dark Arts card. We get Flipendo. Active hero loses 1 and discards a card. That's no fun. We're going to lose 1 health, and we need to discard a card. Now, everything is pretty good, especially if we want to damage the villain. I'm going to just get rid of the base Alohomora. I know I'd maybe like to buy something, but I'd have to potentially get rid of Hedwig to do that, and that would let me deal less damage. Actually, you know what? Let's do that. We need to build a deck. This is a deck building game. I like defeating villains, but we're going to discard Hedwig. That may or may not be the best move. And now we need to trigger villain abilities. Now if we take a look at Quirinius Quirrell's ability, the active hero loses 1 health. Now reward is all heroes would gain 1 of these tokens, and we get 1 health if we defeat him. So we have to then take another damage, bringing Harry down to 8. We can then spend our cards to gain resources. So we'll discard the 2 Alohomoras right away. We're going to gain 2 of these. Now, we were not able to use the special part of the invisibility cloak. We're just going to gain 1 purchasing resource. And with regards to the Firebolt, we're going to play the card, and we will gain 1 lightning bolt. We now get to spend these tokens and assign them to villains potentially. Now, what we're going to do is we're just going to discard these 3, spend them to purchase the Quidditch gear. I'm going to take this lightning bolt and assign it to Quirinius Quirrell. And as I said, we were picking up the Quidditch gear. This then goes into our discard pile. It is now our end of turn. We do not have anything else out here. All of our cards are played. We will redraw a Hogwarts card, and we are going to play the top 5 cards, as this will make up our new hand. And as you can see, they are all Alohomoras. So we're going to be doing a lot of buying. Now, we do not shuffle our discard until something triggers us needing to shuffle the discard. Now what I'm going to do is we're going to go into Hermione's turn. And it's the exact same sequence of events. So we're going to move over to our board camera. We'll draw the Dark Arts card and see what happens. So Expulso, the active hero will lose 2 health. And then we know we're triggering the villains right next, which is active hero loses 1 health, meaning Hermione, at the start of the turn, loses a total of 3 health. Now that is definitely a little painful. At least you don't have to discard a card. So the first thing I'm going to do is play Crookshanks to heal 2 health. You're then going to play the 2 Alohamoras to gain 2 purchasing power. We have the Time Turner and the items of Beetle the Barb. Well, we want to buy some good stuff now. We're going to spend this to gain an extra 2 tokens. And we can use our Time Turner to gain 1. And we've got a total of 5 purchasing power. And I think we should definitely purchase a spell because we can place it at the top of our deck because of the Time Turner. So we will spend all 5 of these. And we are going to purchase Descendo, which will then go on the top of Hermione's deck, and she'll be able to draw it essentially. Goes right into her hand. We'll just deal out the top 5 cards, which is pretty much going to be everything except 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll see. It's probably all the same thing. Yeah, all Alohomora and Descendo. And it would then go back to Harry's turn. We just need to draw 1 more card, refilling the set of Hogwarts cards, and play would continue. Now, that is how you play the game. It is going to continue. You need to defeat all of the villains before they're able to gain dark marks on these locations. So once they control a location, so for example, if 4 cards come up, we'll take a look at some of them, like he who must not be named, add 1 to the location. You then would sweep these off, put this just underneath. You go to the next location. If the villains capture this location, you lose. And don't forget, this tells you how many dark arts cards you need to reveal on each turn. And for the first game, it is always 1. Villains come out 1 at a time. So once Quirrell was defeated, you would place him here. You would then draw the next villain. And we need to defeat all 3 villains to win the game. And there you have it. Fairly straightforward. That's how you play Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle. So now we're going to go on to our review of the game. So Harry Potter Hogwarts Battle, a cooperative deck building game. What did you think of the game? Now, she's definitely starting this one, guys. There's no question that I would take the lead. This is like her game.
Well, I've been bugging Jason. We played it 1 week. I think we played it a couple nights in a row, and we got through a couple of years, and then we started getting frustrated a little bit with it in the 5th year, I think.
We got frustrated with the difficulty, and we got this out, like a few consecutive nights in a row, and we didn't stop until it was like past our bedtime.
So I was really enjoying it, and unfortunately, one of the disadvantages of trying to provide content like this for you guys is that we don't always get to play the games that we want to play, or at least I don't always get to play the games I want to play because he's got a different agenda going. So that
I try, guys. I do try.
So that being said, as Jason alluded in the intro, it's the holidays, and I convinced my parents who were over that it was, would be fun to try. So we had a 6-hour marathon, and we got through the entire 7 seasons.
Yep.
7 years, and we only restarted 1, right? There's only 1 that we failed 1 year, and then I
think it was year 5 that we failed.
I thought it was year 6.
No, year 6 we came very close.
Okay. So that being said, I really enjoyed it. I think my parents, who, as we've talked about before, have been willing to play games with us, like a game that's a little bit like me, a little bit more cooperative. And that
definitely your dad prefers the cooperative games. When it comes to the competitive stuff, he doesn't enjoy it as much, but
neither do I. So, and I mean,
like father, like daughter.
I think they definitely enjoyed it and got into it.
Your mom definitely got into it. I mean, every time a villain was dying, I was getting sound effects and explosions as magic spells took care of the evildoers.
And she also brought the thunder when she got into it at the end in year 7. So what do I like about the game, and what do I not like as much about the game? So I like the fact that it's an accessible game, that pretty much anybody can play it. It's a fairly easy to understand deck building game. There's not a lot of complexity. You can learn it fairly quickly. I love the art. I love the characters. I love that if you...
Well, there's not really that much art. It's primarily movie stills.
Okay,
but
I call it art. I love the production value and the visuals of it. And I like that the characters, one of the things I really like about this is that the characters age along with the years, and their skill levels grow as they would be learning spells.
Spoiler alert. That's okay, guys. It's a review of the game. You're going to get a little bit of spoilers, but we'll try to keep it spoiler light.
Oh, sorry. So that's one of the things I really like. One of the things I don't like quite as much, and that's probably because deck builders are probably one of my favorite type of games. I miss the mechanic in this where you would be able to thin out your deck. And in this one, you don't really get to do that. You
don't get to do it at all.
You don't get to trash any cards. You do have cards that allow you to cycle through your deck a little bit faster so that you can draw and discard cards, but you can't trash any. So the cards you start off with, you end up keeping the entire way through. So it's, you can get stuck with a hand that's a very basic hand against some pretty difficult high-level villains.
And what I think is a little bit of a frustrating element to add to that, and I get why they did it, but for a game that progresses from game 1 to game 7, you will be using the same 10 starting cards. There's really no sort of upgrade, and for a game that doesn't have a trash mechanic, I would have liked to have seen some changes to the starting set of cards to also reflect your hero's growing abilities.
Yeah, well, and that's it. So I do like that, as I said, that their abilities do grow. I like that
But the starting cards don't grow.
No, but I like that their abilities grow and that mechanics do come in as the story progresses, and without spoiling too many things. But as the year progresses, the mechanics change to make it a little bit more difficult, but to make them a little bit more powerful.
Like the movies, it's essentially you're going through years 1 through 7 at Hogwarts, and that's what I think we should say about it, because that will keep it as spoiler light as possible. If you're successful, you're going to get to experience the full breadth of the 8 Harry Potter films. I know 7 years, but 8 films.
So, I mean, for me, I really enjoy it. I like the fact that the dark arts are always involved. There's always something happening with the dark arts, and that there's always at least one villain that you're fighting against until you beat the last villain of the year, or whichever that big bad is, or whichever that last villain is. So there isn't, for me, the only one, like I said, the only one that the only mechanic that I don't like as much is the fact that you can't trash. I think besides that, it's a very balanced game. It's lots of fun.
But we had some negatives to say about the 2-player experience, though.
Well, yeah. So the 2-player experience, what I would have to say about it is that you don't cycle through the deck of cards as much when you're playing 2 players. You're not playing with 4 characters. You're really playing with 2.
And the main difference, I would say, is that the way the dark arts cards chain out is that with 2 players, if you're able to keep the location under control with cards that let you remove 1 dark mark from the location, it's not even a challenge. We played through years 1 through 5, and we didn't even come close to losing once. We got the right cards, and we were just like, yep, let's do it. We're having fun. But I don't think we even got stunned once during our first 5 plays of the game.
Well, no, I mean, you can. It's just you're delaying it. If you do have the right card to be able to clean out the locations, then it's just taking you longer to get through.
But there's no question that you're going to win, I found, at 2 players. At least our experiences with the game, with those cards. And I think that is probably my biggest negative, is how easy it is at 2 players, but that doesn't mean it's not fun.
Yeah, and I was gonna say it was definitely fun. At 4 players, it's definitely a little bit more challenging, but you get to cycle through more cards, so you get to see more of that deck building potential. Now you can lose out on cards a little bit more easily, and I think that's one of the things we saw with the 2-player cards. A 2-player version, you pretty much are guaranteed that you're going to get your card, or if you have an interest in it, you can tell the other person, I'm going to get that card. I mean, you could do that in the 4 version as well, but as we all know, we may be playing cooperatively, but that doesn't stop somebody from picking up a card from the marketplace that they want, even though you want it.
No, and I'd say probably the other sort of negative, if we're talking about the marketplace, was the fact that there are a lot of year 1 cards. There are a lot of low-level cards, and as you're playing the game, it's harder to get some of those really cool, fun, higher-level cards into play. It'd be nice if there was sort of a like a stacking mechanism like you see in a lot of games, similar to our Robotype review, where it's like place this here, place this here, place this here in the deck, so that you could get some of those cards into play. Now, it's not a big negative because, you know, with most deck builders like Legendary, you shuffle, it's random, but the power scaling in this is a lot more like year 1 cards. There's a few very good ones, but especially when it comes towards the end of the game, you need stuff from like year 4 on in order to be able to successfully complete the game.
Yeah, but I think it's maybe a little bit of a negative, but that didn't take away from the game for me. So, I mean, that's my take on it. I think it's still great.
No,
so,
it's like
do you have any other negatives to add to this, or positives that I missed?
Well, one negative that I will add, and it's the last negative because we found out after the fact, after we dove in a little bit on Board Game Geek, is that there are some errors in the rules as they're presented in the game. Now, there are certain cards that you acquire, well, not acquire necessarily, well, I guess acquire is probably the best way to put it in Game 7, that state once per turn you are able to do this. What you're actually supposed to do is once per your turn. And that's a little tricky due to the wording because when it comes to things like stunned, it occurs during a turn and each player's turn is a separate turn. So we were playing the game as written and we succeeded at the very difficult year 7 on our first try. Now, if we had played it as intended by the designers, it probably would have been a lot more difficult. And with that being said, when I was looking for an FAQ, the FAQ was only on Board Game Geek compiled by a user. Now, USAOPOLY, I think you guys really should, you know, compile an errata, an FAQ, get it out on your website and do something official because that's something where people can make a mistake. I think we might, I'm not sure what we're going to do if we play year 7 again. I thought it was more fun as written, and it kind of made sense because using those cards on your turn also does have a negative effect, but it did lead to some very high power stacking, kept us in the game. But even with that, I mean, we were 2 marks away from losing. It was I was only able to deal 1 damage. It was pretty epic.
I have to say, about 4 or 5 turns in, it did not look good. We were already deep into trouble from a location perspective. We'd already lost 2 locations. And Jason said, we're dead. We're dead. Let's just call it. Yep. And my family said, no, we see it through until we actually die. Yep. And guess what? We didn't die. We beat the
scenario. And that's because we played the game as written. Now, if we'd played it as intended,
I can't say one way or another. I think.
Well, no, as intended, we wouldn't have been able to roll the dice as often. We would have.
I get that, but we may still have won.
It would have been by the skin of our teeth.
This was by the skin of our teeth.
Yeah, so just to say. In any case, that was one negative that I saw in the game. Now, to talk to you guys about all the positives. This game drips Harry Potter. It is incredibly thematic. Just one slight negative, and they do address it in the expansion. I would say there's not enough female characters. And you do get to play as Luna Lovegood, and I would say that really, if you look in terms of the movie, she's really the only other female character that gets sort of a lot of prominence besides Ginny Weasley. So it's nice to see Luna get added to the game. I believe they are working on a 3rd expansion. Hopefully that will see Ginny Weasley as a playable character. Maybe even expand the game up to 5 or 6 players, but that was like the last slight negative. But the game is fun. It is Harry Potter. You are in the wizarding world. You are doing exactly what you would want to be doing in this game. You are palling around. You are Harry Potter. You are his friends. And you are using magic to save the wizarding world. And it is simple, it's accessible, it's fun, the production value is great, the packaging, the box, everything fits in there well. I'd like a little bit better divider card system, but that's me being picky because they actually give you a lot of space for everything. I love the dice that we get to use. It's on the box, don't worry, it's not a spoiler for those of you that haven't looked on the back. And more importantly, Julie enjoys it. Her parents enjoy it. I mean, we got to do some really epic things in the game. It was really cool to see her dad and me team up in year 5, and we're like, okay, we're gonna slowly take out these guys to bring out the last guy at once so we don't get into too much trouble. And then her dad making the roll, and then all of a sudden being like, so I'm gonna do 9 damage and take out everything and clean the board. And that's some stuff that is really cool. It's fantastic. And I have to give the game credit. It is well designed. It is a lot of fun. And it is a great Harry Potter game. And it is a great Harry Potter experience. The negatives that we have are really coming from a point of being reviewers, being, a little picky about games, telling you guys the details, what we really think about games, and also wanting the game to be better. That being said, there's an expansion, and I've heard that it addresses some of the concerns and that it's actually a lot harder than even Year 7. So who knows how well we're going to do with 2 players, because I think we might have burned out your parents. Well, probably not your mom. She's probably still ready to go there and be like, psst, and still zap and take out evil villains.
So you ready for a rating?
I'm ready for a rating.
So I'm giving it an 8.5.
I'm going to give it an 8. Just for my little more finicky stuff with regards to the box and the rules. But in terms of fun, this is an 8. This is solid. I believe that if you are a gamer family, and more importantly, if your kids love Harry Potter, getting them this game is something that you're going to enjoy. Oh, and one last little finicky thing, another thing that got it down to 8 was the card stock. After playing through in a long session, we realized that the cards are a little bit more flexible than they should be, probably especially for something with kids. So I would recommend sleeving the cards.
Okay.
And this is coming from the guy that hates sleeving. So with that being said, we're going to grab our drinks, grab our best friend, our best wizard, or witch and wizard. And what can they then expect to see, Julie?
So they can see videos popping above us that are probably...
We shrunk it down.
We shrunk it down below us. So there's going to be other Harry Potter content that you'll probably see below, or maybe some Fantastic Beasts content. You can like, subscribe, comment, let us know what you think.
Yeah, and you guys can definitely stay tuned for our next video, which, barring any crazy things that happen, which was our last week, should be coming out sometime within the next week or so. And then after that, we have some other good stuff coming for you. So keep it right here. Thank you guys for supporting us, and
keep playing games.
Keep playing games. And I was going to say happy holidays. Well, not really happy holidays. Happy New Year, because I think we're not going to have another video necessarily before then.
More importantly, keep playing games.
Yes, keep playing games. She's the one that got us playing for 6 hours. I almost fell out of my chair.